Hey everybody, today I'm going to be reviewing a really odd, unique, interesting, whatever you want to call it, drone. This is a Lishitoys L6059, as you can see here on the box. I call it the pole drone. It kind of looks like a pole, but it's a foldable drone in a really unique style that I don't think anybody else makes a drone anything remotely close to looking like this guy. Just really odd, but it actually flies quite well as long as you fly it in really calm conditions. So let's go ahead and we'll look over the box just real quick. You see, just got some, demonstrations of how to open arms, the QR codes for the app. It does have Wi-Fi FPV, which probably is the one feature of this drone that I don't see why they added, because this drone is actually jam-packed with features. I've never seen a toy drone that comes with as many features as this, so it really does justify the price. It's roughly, I want to think, around $60 the price on this. So let's go ahead and look at the drone some more. The arms are foldable, so it's got the foldable drone feature, which is a really popular thing now. They just click into place, then to fold them down, you just pull the little tab towards you and then back down. So you can see the motors are actually located in the arms, so the motors are actually horizontal and running on a gear, into the propellers. So kind of interesting design there, how they place the motors. It's also got IR, infrared, obstacle avoidance. So there's another feature that you don't see too much, but this one does have it in it. It's got a micro SD card slot, so it records the footage locally, but it also does record it to the app. So you get a duplicate, I guess you could say. But you always get a little better quality when you record to the SD card. And it's got, here's your camera here on the bottom, and it swivels. You can hear that. I don't know if that's going to be able to be picked up on my mic, but you can hear that that's motorized. And it is very smooth. You have controls on your remote here, and we'll go over that in a minute, for up and down on the camera, and it's really smooth. You can look straight down, you get a complete overhead shot, or you want to keep it all the way up, especially if you're going to use the FPV flying, so you get more of the horizon. So really nice. It doesn't have the herky-jerky motion. A lot of them will go on the ones that do have it, and not many have motorized ones, are usually not smooth like that. And it's got altitude hold, another feature that many of the drones are adding now. So it's got a lot of features. Now it has a really high center of gravity, as you can see. And so it is not going to be a very good lander. It does tend to tip over quite easily. I've been able to get it to land just fine on my back patio here. It will kind of hop around as it senses the ground. As a barometer senses it's on the ground, and then it cuts its motors. But in my flight review, it tipped over every single time. There was a little more wind than it would have been like if I had flown it now. So it did tip over on me. I tried to land it to show that it doesn't, and it didn't. But you can take my word for it, it does land as long as it's calm out. Or if you do it inside, it always landed just fine from the inside. It did any breeze it wants to move around. Also, if you take it up high, kind of get a panoramic shot, and you come down, I've noticed at times it kind of pendulums a little, because that's the high center of gravity. And I've kind of had like a vortex ring state where it really got going, but that could have been just a pendulum effect out of control more than a vortex ring state. So it's kind of hard to determine, but it only happened to me once. So when you do take it up high, you want to bring it down slow, and with altitude hold, it's not going to be easy to bring this down real quick. They made it where it comes down rather slow, but you almost got to bring down in stages so that it doesn't get wobbling out of control. It's got these 4 green lights in the back, and that's how you determine your back for orientation, which is right below the power button. As the battery gets low, the top light will go out, and then the next one will go out, and then the bottom light will start blinking, and that's when it will just come on down and land itself. There's not much time between the top light going out and it getting to the bottom and starting to blink. The flight time is around 8 minutes is what I was getting on it. I didn't get an idea on the LVC, but it's not too long, maybe 30 seconds between the top and to the bottom flashing. It's got 1 yaw rate, which is a decent yaw rate, but it does not increase with the rates. There's just 2 rates. But it does have a a little more pitch in the highest rate, but not much, maybe 10 degrees. I mean, like I said, you have to fly this in gentle conditions. You cannot fly it in much wind. It just will get blown around. So, you know, that's one of the downfalls with it, along with, you know, the fact that it doesn't come down very good, and a Wi-Fi FPV is a little bit laggy. So that's something else, you know, that I don't particularly like. It's not terrible, but, you know, aside from those few things, everything else flies and works really, really well on this. Considering this thing is just, like I said, jam-packed with features. The obstacle avoidance works quite well. You can't fly this thing very fast to begin with, but if you come in, you know, full speed, which is, you know, kind of funny to say on this because it's not fast, but you could still bang into something because it doesn't quite seem to have enough time to tell it to back up. But if you just let it float, you know, forward, it will stop itself and it will push itself back. And you see it's got the IR sensors on every side, so it works all the way around. Of course, there's nothing for the top or bottom, it's just on the side. So flying it in the test view on the side of the house here, you'll see it flies up and comes back. It also works against this umbrella, but any kind of object that's got holes in it or it's highly reflective, the IR is going to be confused and it's not going to work. Just like I said, it's got a lot of features for a drone at this price range. It comes with a rather large capacity battery that helps with that 8-minute flight time. It's a 900 milliamp hour 1S LiPo using a standard JST, a red JST connector. It comes with this USB charger with the JST plug on it, and it takes around 2 hours to charge because, you know, it's a big capacity battery. So, but, you know, the 8-minute flight time is really good in my opinion for, you know, something this class. So it's nice that they included a nice large battery with it. It comes with a full set of prop guards, and I would recommend using them. I'm not a big fan, but so I have not used them. But if you see, you can see some. Hopefully it'll show up. You see some scuffs where I have, mostly that's from tipping over, because it's got an auto cutoff feature that if it's over 45 degrees, it will cut off the motor. So if you, since they know this is going to tip over a lot landing, and it does that, it will cut the props off before it even reaches the ground. Now they may spin by their momentum still, but the motors have been turned off. So you don't strip the gears, or you don't burn out a brushed motor in there. So I would recommend using these. It's going to help from the tip overs, and if the obstacle avoidance doesn't work, you don't scuff it into the side of your house or whatever you're testing it on. It also comes with a full set of props, so that's nice since, like I said, it does tip over. It's possible you could break a prop, and a Phillips screwdriver for replacing the propeller. Let's go ahead and go over the controller. It comes with this phone mount, which you have to put on where the battery bay slide, back for the battery bay is. So this one replaces the existing one if you decide not to use the FPV. I don't find the FPV to really be necessary. About the only thing that I use it for is when you tell it to start recording, it sends back to your app that's recording. It starts recording to your phone, and then it tells you your counter starts going, so you at least have an idea if you're filming or not. I do like that. I believe if you press the record button on the phone, it will also record the SD card, and of course it records to the phone. So I do like that feature, but otherwise I find the FPV to be sort of useless on this because you're not going to fly this far away. It doesn't have a lot of pitch or speed, so you're not going to be able to fight any wind coming back. This is a close flyer, or one you may take up to get an aerial panoramic above you, but it's not. The FPV really is kind of another feature that well, it's the only feature I think out of all the things they added to this that I really don't see a use for. The other ones, everything else works quite well. It's got your camera tilt up and your camera tilt down here on your top bumpers, which, like I said, works really well. It's really smooth, and it's just really nice. It's more like a professional camera in a way it tilts itself. Now there is still quite a bit of jello wobble in the footage, and that's just from all the vibrations carrying down from the propellers on down. So you can't expect on these toy grades, very seldom, occasionally, but very seldom, do you see one that has no jello wobble in it. But this one does have a considerable amount in it. Of course, like I said, it's got altitude hold. You got your 2 rates here on your top. Here you've got your video to your left and your photo button to your right, and this bottom one here, which would be typically a throttle down trim, is your headless mode. This is of course your pitch and roll trim, which is fully functional. And this is your, well, it says auto takeoff and auto landing, but it doesn't actually auto takeoff. It just starts up the props. Then you have to go ahead and give it throttle to take off. But it does do your auto landing, which like I said, does work okay if it's calm out and you're laying on a completely level surface. Any grass, anything uneven, it's going to fall over. So keep that in mind. I don't know the gyro calibration. I didn't see it in the instructions. I tried to do some and didn't get the flash, so it must just calibrate when it turns on. But I didn't really have didn't see any issues with it tilting or anything like that that would make me concerned about anything. I think that pretty much covers everything on the controller. The app, let's just briefly go over the app. I'll put the app up here on the screen so you know what it's called, but it's the Lishitoys LS drone. And if you have trouble finding the app store, of course there's a QR code on the back of the box. Like I said, you have some settings in here. You can do a 720p preview, which if I turn that off, that might help with some of the lag, but typically it's just, you know, it's just the way these drones are designed. And then you got all your typical controls, your photo, video, you know, gyro control, your on-screen displays on and off. So all the typical stuff that you do see. Like I said, you may be able to start recording to the SD card as well by pressing here. I think it will. Since it comes to the phone, it should be able to go back to it and tell it, which is a neat feature. And the phone holder, you know, it does work well, even with my curved back LG. It fits in here nicely over it, and it's really comfortable. It doesn't, it's not off balance, and you can adjust here on the side how much you want this to tilt back or forward. So overall, you know, it does work. You know, the holder works well for viewing it. I just don't think that the app Wi-Fi app is necessarily needed, because I don't think you're going to use the FPV too much unless you want to see that video footage being recorded. That's the best feature of it. So I think we've gone over everything on the drone, so let's go ahead and move along now to the flight review. Okay, so I have the Lishitoys pole drone, as I like to call it, bound with the controller and the FPV app. It does also use, as I mentioned before, a micro SD card to record the 720p video locally. So it's always better to, if you, whenever they have that option, so you're recording it to the SD card and not over the Wi-Fi. But when you do press the record button on the controller, it will send a command back over the Wi-Fi and start recording it to your phone also, and then you get your counter, so you do know how long that you're recording. So that's kind of interesting. I've never seen that particular, you know, that feature built into a drone before, where it sends it back and tells it to record from the controller back to the app. But we'll get it off the SD card, and that's the video you'll be seeing here side by side. Now, the wind is starting to pick up a bit today, and this drone does not do well in wind, so we'll have to see how it does. It's hit and miss. The wind dies down, and then it kind of gusts. So we're going to take off here in the highest rate, and we'll test the obstacle avoidance over here next to the house. I'm going to start recording now, and then I want to show you the full tilt of the camera all the way down and all the way up while it's still on the ground. So let's start recording, and I'll hit the video button, and you'll see there it sent the command back, and it's telling it 2, 3, and it's recording here on the app also. So you do have duplicate footage, like I said. So let's go ahead and we'll tilt the camera all the way down. You see how smooth that, for a toy crate drone, the camera tilt being motorized one is pretty rare, but for it to be smooth like this is the best I've seen. They're typically kind of herky-jerky and don't move smooth like that. So let's go ahead and we'll do it auto, but it doesn't really have auto takeoff like it says it does. It has auto landing, but you just press the H button and it fires up the props. Then you have to manually take off. So let's go ahead and take off. Bring it back over here. I had it, if you wonder why it was such an odd takeoff, I had it facing the wrong way. So that's something you have to be mindful of. You see those rear green lights? There we go. I just set it down casually and wasn't even paying attention. So that's why it shot over towards the house. But that's your orientation, your 3 green lights, which also act as a battery meter or indicator. As it starts to get low, The first green, let me bring it down here. The first green light will go out, then the second, and then the last one towards the bottom will start to flash. It's a pretty rapid process from the time the first light goes out until it gets to the LVC and then it lands itself. But the total flight time is around 8 minutes. So it's a respectable flight time with that 900 milliamp battery. So we should be getting some decent footage now. There's going to be some wobble to it. The altitude hold works decent. It doesn't come down very quick, and part of the reason for that is because it tends to get a bit of a pendulum action with the high center of gravity. And I've had a little bit of a vortex ring state, so when you take it up high, you got to bring it down real slow. So I'll kind of take it up high here, and we'll see if we can kind of demonstrate bringing it down and see how it does. I'm just going to try to bring it down slowly here. And that's not doing too bad. If you take it up too high, it can start to swing on you. See, it's swaying a little bit. That's probably the biggest complaint that I have. It's just, and that's partially due to that design. And it just doesn't have much, you know, doesn't have much pitch. And there's just one yaw rate. Though you can see the yaw rate's not too bad. Overall, it's not a bad flying drone. You just have to fly it on a really calm day. If it's going to be windy at all, you got to keep it real close to you. You can fly it indoors if you have enough space, because it's kind of a little bit big. But it flies, you know, I said it flies pretty nice. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll do some, we'll tilt the drone camera down now that I got it in the air. And you can see it tilting down. The Wi-Fi FPV is a bit laggy. I'm not very far away, and it looked like the camera jumped when I was tilting, and that was just the Wi-Fi feed. I kind of don't know why they added Wi-Fi on this drone, because you're not going to be able to fly this very far away. It's just not very fast, and there's not much pitch. It's more of a close flyer for getting some photography, video on a shoestring budget. But like I said, this drone, it offers a lot of features, pretty much everything that I've seen in the last few years in the toy grade class. This drone has altitude hold, obstacle avoidance, which not many have, the IR obstacle avoidance, foldable features, and of course the motorized tilt camera, which also is not a common feature. So, you know, considering what this offers, I think it's, you know, the price is not bad to consider everything it offers. So let's go over here and let's try out the obstacle avoidance against the house. Now, in bright sunlight or any mirrored, you know, glassy object or something, it's not going to work well because of the infrared. But it usually works decent here against my house. But it, you know, you can't fly in real quick. So let's kind of bring it down here and let me see if I can kind of let it drift forward and see if it comes back. And there it did. See, it pushed back. I did not do that. Let's take it in again and see, it's pushing itself back. So it's not letting me fly it into the house. Now if you fly it in really quick, you know, as quick as this can go, and this can't go too quick, you know, I have bumped it into the house and there it's pushing me back. So the obstacle avoidance works actually quite well, better than I think the Kaidang. I don't know if it was the K70 or K80, I can't remember the exact model number, but that one didn't work as well as this one. See if it works up against that. Yeah, it's pushing back from the umbrella. Now if you're going to fly it towards a tree or something with all the holes in it, it's probably not going to work. It needs to be a solid object. But it does seem to, obviously, oddly enough, it does work quite well against my fence here usually. Especially if there's not a lot of glare off of it. And see there, it's pushing back. Just kind of hovering along it. So the obstacle avoidance works really well. You still got a full battery. Let's try to make sure the camera, I think I have it all the way up. I do. Let's kind of try to take it up a little higher here and get a view down while the wind's let up, down towards my pool. And I can see some jello wobble there in the footage. And that's just, you know, the propellers are not well balanced. And you might be able to resolve some of that by, You might be able to get rid of some of that by balancing the props if you want to go to the hassle of doing that. But these toy grades, you typically are going to have jello wobble in the video. But the video itself is not bad quality. It's just, you know, you have that wobble. As long as it's plenty bright outside, I think that the detail is actually quite good. I was really impressed with it indoors. I could read the clock on my stove and stuff really clear. I thought it would be way blurrier. So it's definitely a decent quality 720p. You just have to put up with that jello wobble. So the auto landing feature, it worked better than I expected it would, as long as you land on something really flat level surface. You're not going to be able to get the land on grass. It's just too high center of gravity. It's going to fall over. But as it tilts over, once it gets the gyros detects over a 45-degree angle, it cuts the motors off, so it won't strip your gears or burn out those little brush motors. I don't know if that has anything to do with why they didn't give it more pitch. You know, obviously the more pitch it has, you're not going to have 45-degree pitch. Never get a little wind kicking up, and it's really having a hard time fighting now. I'm trying to bring it back here, but we got it back. Let's go ahead and try the auto landing here if I can get it over my concrete here. Let's see how well it lands. Well, and now you can see how it stopped itself. It tried to land on these rocks here. We'll go ahead and take it up and try to land it again here. Let's go ahead and stop recording the video. And the nice thing with the app is it tells you stop recording on the app also. It sends the command back. So that's the way you know, because I couldn't see any blinking lights or indicators when you don't have the app bound up to let you know when you are recording and when you're not. I've not tested actually starting to record from the app, but I would assume recording to the app is going to send it over Wi-Fi and tell you to record to the SD card also. So let's go ahead and we'll start the propellers up and take it up. Now, if you take it up and try to unlock the propellers manually and take it up, I've noticed that it kind of spins on its yaw axis like it's giving yaw input commands. So I would not use the unlock feature. I would use just the auto unlock with the H. So there's not much wind today. You can see, let's make sure we got it in the, yeah, we got it in the high. So you can see that little bit of a pitch change there. It's not much, maybe 10 degrees. Like I said, this is definitely not a wind fighter. It's definitely one that you're gonna wanna fly. I'm gonna catch it there and try to bring it back out in front of me because it's having some trouble. And let's try to do an auto landing here over the concrete again and see if it, well, it bounced all the way back. I've been able to, it's landed for me quite well in the past, and now it's not wanting to cooperate. Let's try it again. Looks like we're down to one light's off, so we're going to be running out of battery here in a bit. Let's try that auto landing now. The wind's let up some and see how it works. Like I said, it works. Now, it worked for me several times. You can see it is not going to work particularly well because of the high center of gravity. And now we've got all the way down to the one light, so the LVC. So, you know, the fact it tips over is not going to be any surprise. But I've landed it here on my patio several times, and it's landed itself without tipping over. So just take my word on that. But I was trying to correct it some into the wind, but any wind comes through and it's going to tip over. But the fact that it cuts the motors off beyond 45 degrees, that's going to save your gears in your motors. So as you can see, the propellers have just a few light scuffs, so it's really not a huge concern when it tips over like that. So I think that wraps it up. We got some decent footage there included. It's got a decent flight time. The obstacle avoidance works really well. The camera tilt is extremely smooth. So overall, this is not a bad drone. Just make sure you fly it on a calm day or indoors if you have a large area. It's not going to be able to fly outside. in any kind of wind due to the design and the lack of pitch. So overall, you know, not a bad drone. You know, there are some light scuffs on my propellers here, but you know, if you put the prop guards on, that'll certainly eliminate, especially as much as this drone tips over. So I would recommend, you know, flying this probably with the prop guards on. You know, I'm usually not a fan of prop guards, that's why I'm flying without it. So that would certainly protect the propeller, so something to consider. So that should wrap this up then. So be sure to subscribe if you're not a subscriber. We got plenty more videos coming up, so have a good day.
The power of the dark side.